Let me turn this on. That might help. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to trim that part out because I guarantee YouTube's going to pick up on that. Oh, you can't use John Williams music. You think? Anyway, I made that with that little Grok AI video movie maker, and sometimes, like, as bad as AI could potentially be for society, there's times where it's just fun to do certain things with it. But hope everybody is having a good evening. Skylark, what's up, buddy? Legendary thumbnail, thank you. I appreciate it. I can't take credit for that. Someone else made that, but I just felt like with the circumstances potentially at hand, I thought it was appropriate. So. And that's why I made that little video with it real quick, and I put the music in there and everything like that. I'll have to trim that out. I already know it, but I thought it was funny. Laggy says, considering how bad Grok usually is, it didn't turn out that poorly. Yeah, I was expecting that to not be good. I was expecting that to not be good at all. I want to look at it one more time before we get started because it actually turned out pretty well. I like it. I think I'll try to make a longer version of it with different angles and everything like that. Just for fun. I think I'll put that together. But happy that you're all here. I know a lot of you are heading to the game, so you won't really see a whole lot of the show and everything like that. I do plan on doing damage report after. I'm going to be doing homework during the game, mostly during the intermissions, because I want to actually watch the game and take notes and everything like that. But we'll go ahead and get into the stuff with the show here and everything like that. So when it comes to playing against Chicago, first thing, if you want a hat, links in the description. There's stickers there too if you guys want to pick you up some merch. There will be more on there eventually. I'm going to use a different store for the shirts because the shirts on Teespring actually aren't that good. But, if you want a hat or you want a sticker, all those are available right there. I kept the prices as low as possible. I'm not turning a huge profit on them, but anything helps. So if you guys want to go buy one of those, feel free. Additionally, the Buy Me a Coffee link for donations is also in the description. If you guys like my work and want to contribute to it, I would greatly appreciate that as well. And that money does go back in the channel. So, all right, let's get into it. Hurricanes and Hawks. Today is the 22nd of January in the year of our Lord 2026. The Hurricanes have now improved to 31-15-4 overall. They're a astounding 18-8-1 at home. That's a really good record at home. That is incredible. You've got almost twice. You basically have twice as many wins as you do losses, and you only have one overtime loss. So it's really good. In the last 10 games, they're up to 7-2-1. That's about where they need to be for the duration of the season, to be perfectly honest, at least until near the end, because the standings are still pretty tight. Now, the Canes are starting to make some separation. They're 7 points ahead of the Penguins right now, which I did not imagine saying that and be talking about the top two spots in the Metropolitan Division. But, the Penguins they're being cockroaches. They do not want to go away. They're going to make a push. And, I think they know that Sid's near the end, so they're doing their best to keep that team competitive, and they've done an excellent job. The guys on the ice have really pulled together for that team there. When they played against Carolina, I was like, all right, they're actually really good. So 22-7 is the overall record for the Blackhawks. They have a 9-10-3 record on the road. Part of the reason for that is, and we're going to talk about it a little bit when we get to the lines, Chicago has that mix right now of they have some elite young talent, and they have some experienced guys there to help cultivate that elite young talent. Everything they need in between, the Eric Robinsons and Will Carriers of the world, that's where they're still lacking right now, and they could use a little bit more elite talent, but it's taken a while for them to come along, but they're starting to manage their assets a little bit better. So in the last 10 games, they are 6-4-0, and they have 47 points, and they are 6 points out of wild card 2 in the Western Conference. So they're not done yet either. They're not out of the fight. So I'm expecting them to put up a fight tonight, but we're going to get into how Carolina can win. This is the first of only 2 meetings tonight, and then they will meet again not in Buffalo. I forgot to change that. My bad. They will meet again in Chicago on the 9th of April. And so, yeah, Lackey, good point. That's exactly what I was getting to. The more the Hurricanes can, maintain this type of pace now with having a 7-2-1 or a 6-2-2 type of last 10 from now until March, the better off they'll be, because the last part of this schedule is going to be brutal. Like when that time comes around, there's going to be a lot of pissed off people and a lot of aggravating things going on. Buckle up for that. Maybe it'll go better, but I'm expecting that to be the most difficult time of the season for this team. I think what we saw in the first few months will be, cakewalk compared to what they're going to deal with at the end, even if everybody's healthy, because that's going to be a brutal schedule. So now's the time to make hay, and here's another night to make hay tonight. So I don't think that this is as much of a trap game as it is in the past. I think we're going to see an ultimately better Chicago Blackhawks team playing against the Hurricanes than we have seen in the recent few years. I will get into that as to why. So Hurricanes improved their goal differential to plus 28. They have 173 for, 145 against. The Hawks have 135 for, 154 against for a negative 19. The Hawks, for all the scoring talent they have, they're still sitting a little bit below 3 goals for per game. 3.38 for they're sitting at 2.71. The Hurricanes are sitting at 3.38. So they're right about where they need to be there. Goals against per game, I want to see that drop a little bit more for the Hurricanes. Now that Slavin's back, once he's in the lineup for a while, I think it will. We'll get that back below 2.5, and then 3.08 goals against per game for the Hawks. Low scoring game should favor Carolina in this particular instance. High scoring game shouldn't happen regardless. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. Power play pretty close, 21.9 to 21.6. That in mind, Carolina struggled with the power play in the first few weeks. It has drastically improved since then, as I showed in one of the recent shows. Penalty kill percentage, Carolina 79.6 to Chicago at 84.6. Face off 50.5 for Carolina to 47.4 for the Blackhawks. All right, so these are the practice lines from yesterday. Svechnikov, Aho, Jarvis, Hall, Stankoven, Blake, Ehlers, Stahl, Martinuk, Carrier, Jankowski, and Kokoniemi. Slavin, Chatfield, Miller, Walker, Nikishin, Nystrom, Riley. So no Goss to spare still. No Robinson for a while. And this time it looks like it's not a while doesn't mean 4 games. He's actually going to be out for a while. I just hope he's at least back for the playoffs. The team will be okay without him, but I really hope he's back for the playoffs. It sucks because you lose a player with a lot of intangibles when you lose Robinson. You lose physicality, you lose, grit, guy who plays a high effort game, very fast, and above all, he provides you a lot of your depth scoring. So him being out, that's kind of going to suck. I was personally expecting to see a Bradley Nadeau recall in light of this, and it hasn't happened, to my surprise. So I'm waiting to see what happens with that. Hopefully it will be sooner rather than later. I have some ideas I'll talk about with the lines. Me and Matthew P. talked about it a little bit last night. So those were the practice lines from yesterday. And as Corey Lavalette says, no lineup changes other than Anderson in net. So that's what I imagine that we're going to see tonight is exactly what we see right here. Going over to the Blackhawks, their practice lines. Green, Bedard, Burakovsky. Don't let the top line fool you. Connor Bedard on his own is a threat regardless of who his wings are. The more they can accommodate him, the better. But still, there's a lot of lethality there just from having him. I would say that second line between Ryan Donato, Frank Nazar, and Tyler Bertuzzi. Forgive me, I almost say Todd every time I see his name. I'm surprised I haven't accidentally said Jason Blake more often. That's a little bit more balanced of a line, if you ask me, that you have there on that second line. Nick Foligno, Jason Dickinson, Mikheyev for the third line, Slagantmore, Lardis for the bottom line. There is nowhere in any way other than in the individual quantity of Bedard that Chicago has an advantage throughout their forward group. And the defense, it's not even close. This is good. This is where Chicago really needs to start focusing their drafting efforts in the future. Vlasic, I really like. I really like Vlasic. Very dynamic game, leans a little bit more towards the defensive side, if you ask me, but pretty good on both sides of the puck. Good skater. Crevier, Kaiser, Leshinov, Grzelcyk, Murphy. So you've got some experience there with Matt Grzelcyk and Connor Murphy to help out the rest of the lineup and everything there. Again, Carolina, big advantage in the defense aspect of things tonight. Spencer Knight will get the start for them with Soderblom backing him up. Doc and Lafferty are the extras. Teravainen, our old friend, will not be there. He is out with an upper body injury, so we will not be seeing him tonight. Now, the biggest thing that I want to note here, first off, Frank Nazar is coming back. And I've heard it pronounced both ways, Nazar and Nazar. So I'm actually not sure what the proper one is. When I listen to Mike call it tonight, that's what I'll be doing from here on out. When it comes to the power play units, when you look at these, power play 2 is kind of a placeholder-ish power play. And I'm surprised that the Blackhawks don't front load that power play unit a little bit more and put Nazar up there as well. Bertuzzi, Burakovsky, Green, Bedard, Leshinov. The reason I am highlighting the power play units tonight is despite Chicago having not the deepest team, they still have a solid power play percentage sitting above 21%. The biggest reason for that is that top unit. So shutting them down will be important. I imagine that the way that they're going to deploy their units against Carolina, because Carolina still has a good penalty kill, even the numbers are not lining up to where they're normally at. That second power play unit is going to struggle against Carolina's penalty kill. The top unit will too, but the second unit would have a particularly hard time. I'm expecting a 90-second and 30-second split between the first and the second power play when they're used. And of course, the aforementioned Nazar has been activated, and he will play tonight, and he is also shown here in the lines. So biggest things I want to highlight here. When it comes to Chicago, you don't have to shut them down as a unit. You have to shut down individual players. In that case, you're primarily looking at Bedard and Nazar as guys that you have to shut down. Their defense, not that good. Where they do have an X factor in keeping the puck out of their own net is Spencer Knight. We're going to talk about that in the goalie segment, but Chicago did themselves a favor acquiring him. He's going to be their goalie of the future for the foreseeable future, at least. And that's going to be one thing that could be a factor tonight. Carolina cannot turn him into a Vezina candidate. I know that that's a lot to ask of the Hurricanes sometimes, but lately that's not been too much of a problem. So that's one of the trends that's going to have to stay here tonight. So what it comes down to is here with this, when you're looking at this lineup, shut down Bedard, shut down Nazar, shut down their ability to supplement the guys around them. Don't get drawn in any stupid stuff after the whistle with Tyler Bertuzzi. Shut down power play 1, solve Knight, and Carolina wins this game. Speed. Carolina's got a little bit of an advantage here at the max speed, 23.38 to 23 flat. Advantage in 20 to 22 and 18 to 20 mile per hour speed bursts, relatively significant advantages in all of them. Now, Carolina also, as expected, but a greater advantage than normal. Offensive zone time, 54.4% to 40%. Their shot attempt differential is still 8.2 above league average, whereas the Chicago Blackhawks have a 4.4 below league average shot attempt differential. Neutral zone time, Carolina 18.4 to 17.9 for Chicago. And then lastly, defensive zone time, 36.2 for Carolina. They are still leading the league in offensive and defensive zone time. And their shots on goal differential, 0.3 to negative 0.2 for the Hawks. So you've got the big advantages where you expect them, but in a greater number than normal. The biggest thing with the Hawks, like I said, you have to shut down individual players. You shut down Bedard and you shut down Nazar, and you should have a W tonight. They don't get a whole lot of offensive zone time, and they don't score a bunch when they are there, but that's who they look for more than anybody to create chances and finish chances, is the two players that I've been harping on here. So you got to keep it off their stick as much as you can. So that's where gapping up on those guys is going to be particularly important. So shots on goal here, again, big differential all the way across the board. Totals 1,618 to 1,234, 442 to 320 for high danger, mid-range 498 to 369, long range 386 to 273. So biggest thing to remember there is you have an advantage in shot volume and chance quality pretty much across the board here. When you look at the difference between these two maps here, there is only 2 spots on the ice, and they're in, relatively lower danger areas that the Hawks have a advantage in generating shots on goal. Now, when you go into where everybody is scoring from, Carolina, in everywhere that is where a goal is normally scored, i.e. the high slot area, the point right there on the doorstep and right above the goal line on the sides of the net, Carolina has the advantage there as far as where they're producing their goals from. Chicago, on the other hand, not so much. They're not producing a ton of goals in any position except right there on the doorstep, and that's primarily because of Bedard. They're not going to pepper you with a ton of shots from the point. They're not going to do anything other than try to facilitate those entries for those two particular players and give them a chance to help them win the game. That being said, though, like I said, they're still only 6 points out of wild card 2, even with their struggles. This team is improving. So across the board, advantage in shots on goal, chance generation, all that type of stuff. Don't let it fool you, though. Keep it off those two guys' stick. Still respect the threat of everyone. Still respect the threat of everyone else around you, but primarily focus on that. All right, so now we're going into the goaltending matchup here. Frederik Andersen gets to start tonight, and he has been better as of late. I'm hoping that he'll get a little bit closer to getting above 500 again and getting the numbers to where he needs to be. So 20 games played, he has 7 wins, 10 losses, 3 overtime losses. And when I say above 500, I mean in the column not involving the OT number. I would like to see him at, by the time his next 3 starts are over, I would like for him to be 10, 10, and 3, including tonight. Goals against average of 3.25, save percentage of 869. Spencer Knight has played 33 games. He is their definitive starter, 14 wins, 13 losses, 6 overtime losses. A lot of that's not on him. The team in front of him is very offensively minded and does not defend very well, even when they need to. And their defense is just on paper and structurally not that great right now. That's one place where they really have to improve players. If Chicago had Carolina's defense, for example, they'd be a pretty solid playoff team right now, maybe a little bit better even. But that defense is a real weak spot. So that's where they're going to have to start concentrating their efforts in the future. Their struggles as far as that goes it has nothing to do with Spencer Knight, really. So in those 33 games, he has a 2.53 goals against average. Anything under 3 is good. Save percentage above 900 at 913. So again, that's good there too. Their problems are not because of him. It's just there's a lot of youth and experience, and the defense just isn't that good. So, all right, and then we go to save percentage here. Don't get too worried about these numbers since Freddie's on the uptick right now, but at the moment, Spencer Knight does have an advantage in saving in every area, high danger, mid-range, and long-range chances throughout the entirety of the ice. When it comes to how you beat Spencer Knight, his save percentage in high danger areas is still pretty good, but this is one of those nights where Carolina can really apply their shot volume game, the suffocating forecheck, and establish the offensive zone. And even without generating a ton of quality chances, they can win this game by playing to their identity, using experience on their side, get pucks in behind that Chicago defense, forecheck, go to work on them, wear them out. And there's no reason why Carolina shouldn't be able to get an early lead and ultimately walk away with this game, solve Knight early, and it not be a problem. Going into where these guys are allowing their goals at. Freddie has played less games. That's why these numbers are a little bit lower. But you'll notice here where Spencer Knight's giving up a lot of his chances, or where Carolina loves to shoot the puck from and generate rebounds right there in that high slot area where he has given up 34 of his 83 goals. That's where you really want to try and get those rebounds out on Spencer Knight, make those second effort, or make him try to make those second effort saves and wear him out. That can be done by Carolina playing their normal game. Shoot from the point, low to high cycling, get pucks on net, high volume shooting, eat up those rebounds. That's your best chance there with that. All right, so that is the end of the slides. So I will now get to the comments. Blackie says they also have a fairly respectable away record, referring to the Hurricanes 13-7-4, not like last year where they were struggling to get 500 away from Raleigh. That's gonna be excellent. And like you cited out here, which they'll absolutely need considering how heavy March and April are. Yeah, March and April are going to suck. Like that. That's why the more hay they make now, if they have, say, a 10 to a 12-point lead on whoever is in second place, or at a minimum have a 15 to 16-point lead on, excuse me, on the cut line, I will feel a lot better. AB, what's up, buddy? Rocking the Keishan tonight. If Spencer Knight is starting, he's going to put up some quality saves, but the Hawks D is not great. Yeah. Watch Knight's glove positioning. His push-offs are great. Such a young age. Grayson, what's up, buddy? Do you think this team is better than last year? I hope not. I'm not done for this question. No, you're not done for that question, buddy. No, the Chicago Blackhawks are better than what they were. They're still in the fight. This time last year, it was kind of like it was a foregone conclusion that they were done. But they're only 6 points out in January, and they're about to have 2 weeks off with – do they have anybody going to the Olympics? I don't think off the top of my head, I can't think of if they do or not. But no, they're better than they were. AB says Freddie has been slow of his push-offs, which worries me with a team like Chicago. Yeah, because Chicago, especially because of Bedard and Nazar, they can generate those like really close-range cross-ice chances and everything like that. If Carolina does their job defensively, Chicago's not going to get a whole lot to work with anyway. So that's going to be a little bit more important. And, tonight shouldn't be a goaltending duel. I'm not expecting a goaltending duel at all tonight. I know I said that last game and it turned into one. I'm not expecting that tonight. Ethan says, I'm going to be watching Bertuzzi tonight. If we move for a winger, he could be a sneaky grind guy that can add offense. I'm not opposed to that idea. I'm not opposed to it at all. I'm hoping that they go for someone a little bit more, a little bit better. Give me 1 second, guys. There we go. Okay. But yeah, Bertuzzi wouldn't be a bad pickup as a secondary or tertiary guy. He's not a big fish, though. I've not given up that they're trying to land someone along the lines of Robert Thomas. And, you know, it looks like that getting him is not totally out of the question. That's still my number one target personally. But as far as adding a supplementary piece, especially with Sherwood off the board, Bertuzzi is someone that I would not be opposed to adding so that you have a gritty depth scoring winger, especially we don't know what the extent of Robinson's injury is right now. So all we know is he's going to be out for a while. When we have better knowledge of that, then making a move for someone like Bertuzzi would potentially be mutually exclusive to him being a secondary option. That would be a let's bring somebody in to replace Robinson for a little bit type of option, depending on the extent of his injury. So that's the biggest thing about that. But yeah, that's about all I got for this one. I'm expecting a relatively simple game tonight. I don't think that there's going to be too much to talk about. Like, don't go into it thinking that you're going to have an easy win or anything like that. That's not going to be the case. But this is a 110% winnable game if Carolina plays to their identity. They don't have to do anything special. They've got the better constructed roster. They've got more experience. Chicago has a couple of highly talented players, but in isolation, they're good. But like as far as that lineup as a whole, not so much. Ethan says, I feel like the Canes are losing Blake or Stankoven in a trade for Robert Thomas. In that case, a sub $5 million winger can help balance out the left side. Yeah, if that happens, that would be a good idea to do that. And if it's like people are saying, oh, it's a bad look if you trade either one of those guys after signing them. I think that everyone knows that that's a possibility. So when you're making a big business decision like that, something that is literally something that could be the deciding factor if you get a Stanley Cup final appearance and ultimately win, I think at that point feelings kind of have to go out the window. I would prefer neither one of them go. And like I said, I've already made it abundantly clear I have a little bit easier of a time of letting Blake go than Stankoven. But to make that happen, you might have to do that. But the Hurricanes have enough futures to where it's a possibility that they can make that happen without giving either one of those guys up. And no, Nikishin is not one of the guys I would give up for Robert Thomas. There is nobody available that I would be willing to give up Alexander Nikishin for, just not at all. Like he says, they went into the Blues game with the easy win mentality, Stahl's quote, and then they got shut out. That's what I'm hoping to. That's the biggest thing I want them to avoid tonight. Do not go into this game with the mentality that they had with St. Louis, because I was driving back from Fayetteville. And I stopped at Cookout and I was listening to the second period and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with this team? Why are they playing so like garbage? Like, I can't see the game. I'm listening to it on the radio, but I've heard Mike and Tripp call games so much that I can kind of visualize what they're talking about. And I'm like, well, Tripp wasn't there. Walt Ruff was actually on the radio with Mike. And I remember that, like, I was listening to what they were saying and I was like, they're trying to dress this up like it's not going that badly. And I could tell it was just going really badly. Additionally, like, I saw group chats and posts on X and stuff like that while I was stopped at Cookout. And I was like, yeah, this is not a good one. Granted, that was on a back-to-back, but either way, they shouldn't have gone in there with that mentality and everything like that. So that's where I think that as long as they don't do that again, I think they'll be okay. I really do. So yeah, that's about all I got for this one. So we'll see. We'll see what happens tonight. Like I said, trap game, not as much of a trap game as it would be playing Chicago in the past. They're better than what they are, but they need to go into this with the mentality as if they're playing any other team in the league, because every team in the league is a good team, as they say. So, all right, guys. Well, that's going to be it for this show. Thank you very much for joining me. I will see you after the game for damage report, but I will show you something really cool. Hey, Frank, we'll go for a walk? We'll go outside? Come on, let's go outside. We'll go outside? Come on, you know you want to go outside. Come on, let's go. Come on, come on. Hey, let's go. He's like halfway jumping up out of his bed, and then he's not going to believe me until I get up to go get his leash. Frankie, you want to go outside? L, Frank. Yeah. Huge L, Frank. Huge L. We're going for a walk either way because I want to get you walked before the game starts so I can watch the game. You want a treat? I don't have any up here. I'll have to get you one downstairs. You're a good boy. Man, I got so lucky. I have such a great dog. All right, guys, thank you very much for joining me. I will talk to you after the game. In the event that I decide not to do damage report, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't. I will post on X. I will be posting on X during the game. Yeah, uncommon Frank flub. Yeah, you fumbled that one, Frank. Here, let me see if here. Watch this. Come here. Come on. Yeah, let's go. Where do you not want to go walk? There you go. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. All right, guys. I'm gonna go play with my dog and walk him and everything, and then I'll be posting on X during the game. Y'all, I will see you later. Take care. Have fun. All that good stuff. Remember, pull, focus, believe, Jankowski to China.